Hi everyone, it's Sarah from the Support Worker Store. Today I've got Greg. Hi Greg, how you going?
Oh, good. How you doing?
Good. Thank you for having this podcast with me today because I know that you are a person that travels around Australia a lot for your company. So the fact that you
hmm
took the time to do this podcast, I really appreciate it. So thank you so much.
No, thank you for having me on your podcast. Appreciate it.
Well, we've got to go back to square one, how we actually met.
Mm.
And it's a bit of an interesting story because we actually were up for the same award. We sat at the same table and we are probably nearly a year into networking with each other that we've maintained a networking relationship.
We shared the same table at the Victorian Disability State Awards. So we shared the same table, had a few good laughs. I think we can leave it at that. Unless you want to share any more.
Oh, you had a really great team that was so easy to communicate and connect with. So it was a really lovely night. So I I
Yeah,
don't know whoever was in the part of the table seating plan at those awards. Thank you. I made some really great connections with you guys. So it was awesome. Yeah.
absolutely.
So let's get straight into it. What made you and your wife, Kerry, decide to open up a company?
Good question. So Kerry's been in the industry for about 35 years now.
Yeah.
She's worked in a combination of community services, public service, and she actually worked for the NDIA at the very launch at trial site in 2013. So
Yeah.
she's had all this career. So for me, I was an ex-public servant. I was pretty much not in the sector of NDIA, but I know public service from 15 years of being in that before starting Your Hart. So I've worked in management roles, supervision, and accountancy type roles before that. And then I saw Kerry working with NDIA 2013, and I didn't. I suppose I don't dislike being a public servant. Don't get me wrong, but you're in a war. You don't go out much. You stealing the computer. Planners and lax and all that would know what I'm talking about. So if we talk to each other, we want to help people. Let's go and open a business. Let's help people. I've got a cousin with Williams syndrome, so I can see how my cousin's parents how they deal with someone with disability. It's a tough gig, and I really have admiration for carers. Kerry's been a carer most of her life as well in her family as such. Um, she worked for NDI for 2 years. We started Your Heart to Heart in 2015. So we started in just north of Newcastle in a little church hall in 2015. Just working on the church. We did support coordination. We did some counselling services. Found that we were getting a bit bigger. We needed a bit of a bigger space, so we moved to Cessnock over in the Hunter Valley Vineyards. So that 2016, at that point, we're doing the same thing. So in that moment between early 2016 to mid 2017, there was no local area coordinators. They didn't exist. They started the NDIA, local area coordinators,
Yeah.
and they got rid of that role in the agency. So there was about an 18-month period there where LACs didn't exist. Almost everyone on the scheme had support coordination. So we had quite a lot of participants to work with. We got to around mid 2017, and our LAC, we saw a LAC at a home visit with a participant. And she said, "Well, we're going to be taking your clients off you." And I'm like, "Whoa, what? What's going on here? All these
Yeah.
clients participants have done such a great job, we're losing them." So that was 75% of our business gone,
Wow.
bang, gone.
Yeah.
So we had to make a decision. Do we stay in Newcastle and provide a like a support work type service, or do we go to Sydney or go to Melbourne where NDIA participants are sort of starting to add their regions out? And we thought, let's go to Melbourne. So we pretty much moved everything. We moved our personal life and everything down to Melbourne in 2018. And we've been doing support coordination. Don't do so much of it now, but more focused around the therapy and the group activity programs that we do in Melbourne. So that's 2018. So we've been constantly in Melbourne now for 7 years now. Our office is in South Yarra. Obviously, COVID hit, which was everyone's perspective was a interesting time. So we had staff in the 2018 and 2020. We had to let our staff go because we got
Oh
legal
God.
advice at the time and going, what do we do? Like, if someone got COVID in our staff and they gave it to a participant,
Yep.
what what protection do we have as a business? And the lawyer says this is unfounded, buyer beware, that sort of thing. So as staff, we had to let go. It was a Greg show pretty much throughout the whole pandemic. So when the gates opened, our staff came back, and it was obviously plenty of work at that point for them. So we opened all up then. So once all the lockdowns and like finished, we took the business to Southeast Queensland. So we went to the Gold Coast, and we've just opened now, more regularly opening up now in Brisbane. So that's been the last couple of years. What that's been happening. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a journey.
It sounds like you had to pivot quite a few times to make sure that you can still be here today. Were they really hard decisions to make when you had to
Correct.
pivot? Yep. Was there blood, sweat, and
Absolutely.
tears,
Absolutely.
and a bit of wine?
Yeah, it's it's definitely caused some heartache, some tension, and I've seen so many providers out there in that time, bigger, a lot bigger than us,
Yep.
fold out of the game, gone. I've seen
Yeah.
others that have like 3 or 4 big services merge in one big service. I've seen that happen. Yep, I've seen so
Yep.
much disruption in the sector for providers in that time.
Yep.
I think with Kerry and I, we have such high work ethic we don't see anywhere. That what keeps us going. It's not a Monday to Friday 9 to 5 gig. It's 6 7 days a week. You're at it.
Do you love it?
I love helping people. I love to see people shine. I love to see them achieve their goals. From my perspective, because I haven't done support work or counselling or anything like that for a number of years now, I
Yep.
think more my benefit, I like to help others as support workers being able to help people achieve their goals. Like our support workers are known as the joy makers.
Yeah. They are.
So
Was
that's what
so with
I think having that group, I think fostering the joy makers, our staff, to help people can do a lot more benefit with me doing it alone.
yeah. And is that because when you say fostering staff, you have a background in counselling, so it's quite easy to have these tough conversations with support workers?
Absolutely. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, we've been
Yep.
a counsellor now for 10 years.
Yep. So there's nothing you haven't seen or haven't heard of, and yeah, pretty much it comes second nature to you.
Yep. Yeah,
So
absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah, did you always intend
I
to
was just
open a
gonna
business? Yep. Go. All good.
well, no, I'll answer the question you got there. Think I always had a fascination for business coming after school, but I
Yep.
never in my wildest dreams ever think I'd ever open one. No.
Yep. And I have this theory that people that open NDIS businesses turn around one day at work and go, "Stuff this shit, I can do it better." I honestly feel like there's this moment where they're like, you know what, I think I can serve the people that we serve better than what they're being offered. I think if I go, give it a crack, what have I got to lose? If Because I feel that I, as a business owner, could just do a better job. Did you ever have that feeling when you were looking around in the sector at that time going, you know what? I could do this quite easily.
Absolutely. Just from Kerry's experiences, she's worked for a lot of charities. They don't,
Yep.
in the leadership level, don't have that care. A lot of them. I'm sure some of them do. Don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of leadership that leave the support workers. You go do your thing. Leave us alone.
Yep. Yep.
There's a lot of that going on.
So do you feel quite connected because you have been able to do support people as well on shift
Yeah,
as a support
absolutely.
worker yourself? Yeah.
I'm always Yeah, absolutely. I even now today, which I haven't done the support work for a number of years, I still have a close eye on what's actually going on, and obviously Kerry does too. She has the more direct line with the staff and the participants. Her being a customer experience officer in the business, but I still like a little. I'm still a little bit behind and saying, "Oh, yeah,
Yep.
I know what's going on." So I think a lot of
How do
big
you think?
services, for example, do not know
Yeah.
what's going on.
How do you keep an eye on what's going on? What is the trick to have your fingers on the pulse when it comes to support workers and the care that they provide to the people that we serve?
Well, seeing all the interactions coming through on email, the notes that come through, and
So
checking
you
out
do read the
what's going
notes.
on. I do read the notes.
You do
Absolutely.
read the notes because they're really important, aren't they? Because it really does
Yeah,
tell you and builds a picture of what's going on in a person's life.
correct. Yep.
You heard it
You
first.
have to know what's going on. Yep. You have to know what's going on, because if you don't know what's going on, then is a participant happy? Because at the end of the day, we want to make sure the participant's happy, they're
Yeah.
enjoying the services that we offer.
So, when you first started your company, how did you get the first participant to join into your company as a for support?
It was very easy back in those days. The connection with NDIA to providers was very close.
Yeah.
We used to just stay on the phone, because we didn't have a reception at the very beginning. Just Kerry and I. It was a Kerry and I show.
Yeah.
So we always stuck with the mobile phone, answering every single call that's come through, because the planners and the planners at the time, they were calling support coordinators. You take on this participant? Yeah, no worries. Just send me the referral. So it was very, very easy to get participants at the very early days.
Yep. And did you have any worries when you were intaking new participants into service? Or as time progressed, have you changed the way that you intake people into you?
No, it's no real change really. No, I don't think there's much change. I think back in those days, it was a lot more easier to bring participants in, because it was such a close connection with the LACs and the planners at that moment. Now they're very distant, a lot more distant
Yeah.
now. Or planners, you can't get onto a planner now. But a LAC, the odd occasion you might get a LAC, other times you
Yep.
might not. So
Yep.
it's a bit more tricky now, I think, for services out there to get participants than it was back in 2016.
I agree with that because it was a hell of a lot easier. But in like 2016, there wasn't that many independents and there wasn't that many for profit companies coming through as well. So it meant that it was quite
Correct.
rare or small.
Absolutely. And I think there was a stigma there too. We had we've done a number of audits now, and I remember one auditor was saying to me that the agency sees the for-profits services as
Yeah.
cowboys. I was like, hey, how do
What?
you think you're get cowboys? We're out there to provide a service. We're not ripping people off. We're not defrauding the scheme or participants. We just didn't get it. And I know there's a lot of that going on in the sector today. There's a lot of fraud going on. And I think that the stigma is a for profit could be a fraud. It's like, that's not
Yeah.
a point at all. Because actually, Your Heart to Heart is something a little bit different. So, Your Heart to Heart is like a B Corp, which is fights for like environmental issues, for people, profit, and planet. So, we have that sort of mission, bring people in the community as well as our social enterprise. So we have that sort of something very special, rather than not. We're not a not for profit, but we're also a little bit different than a for profit. If you get that, Jess.
But you're not driving around in a Mercedes or a Ferrari
No,
by any chance with your 10 jet
no, not at
skis.
all. No,
This is where they people get.
that's it. Yep, I don't have $1 million mansion or anything like that. No,
Yeah, you'd be surprised how many people in the community will say things like that, like we're ripping people off, but really we're just doing our job, that like our careers that we want to follow. So it's interesting. Hold on one moment.
we've got a life mission. You can call it a
Sorry.
life mission. A life mission, you can call it, to try and serve, to bring happiness to others, helping people out. I think that's what more it's about. I think if anyone is listening to this podcast, if you're thinking you're coming in this NDIS thinking you're going to make a lot of money, I mean, you don't have a care for someone, you're not going to do very well. You've got
You
to
are
actually
going to
have a
be
care for
terrible.
someone. Yeah, you've got
They
to
come
care
in
for
as
people.
quick as they exit. That's what I've noticed at the
Correct,
moment. They in and out very quickly, and
absolutely.
then they sell it for their
Yep,
auditing.
that's it.
What was the biggest worry that you had when you first started out when you opened your business?
Well, at the moment when I left the public service, I was actually really, really disliking it very much.
Yeah.
I think it was just getting very mundane. There was a lot of stress in the public service at that point. There was a
Yeah.
lot of job security issues and that sort of thing. I never felt like my job was at risk of the public service, but I just
Yeah.
think there was a lot of negative pressure at that time.
Yeah.
So I really never felt of the worst case scenario of leaving the public service and going to business. I never had
Yeah.
that negative thought at all.
Yeah.
But in hindsight, thinking it was actually could have been quite scary, just leaving a safe job, going across to the NDIS space, helping people, and not even thinking what could happen, the worst case scenario. But it
Yeah.
worked out well.
Yeah, that could have been worst case scenario. I know of a few people that have brought franchises in the NDIS and haven't been able to succeed any further because they haven't been able to build their list of people that they support. So yeah, it is a huge risk, and it is a risk,
Mm,
to be honest. Like it's
mm,
not a guarantee, because especially with a lot of people that we serve, with their plans changing a lot. I don't know about you, but I'm seeing a lot of plans getting cut and a lot of things changing, that it's a lot
hmm
harder now to maintain, to keep people, because they don't have the same hours that they originally had. And have you know, because
Exactly, exactly.
you do group support, right? You do group support and the one-to-ones?
Great.
Yep. Do you do
Yes,
enterprise as well?
absolutely.
So could you
No, just
am I missing any of them? Like, you don't do
so
any seals?
we do the group activity.
Yep.
No, we do
No.
respite, but we don't do SEAL or SPA. Just the respite, the groups, and the one-on-one, and our therapy supports.
So you're telling me that you don't have to be a seal provider to be okay and to remain in this sector?
Oh,
There seems to be this
STA,
notion.
STA,
Sorry?
STA. Do
Oh, you
short-term accommodation, not
yeah.
support independent living.
But you when you STA, but you don't do anything long term, so you don't have to be a SEAL or SDA provider at all. You're like, you just do like short respites and all that stuff to maintain, because there's this
Yep.
false image out. I believe in, like, I believe I can see there's a false image that you have to be a SEAL provider in the NDIS sector to be profitable, which I don't believe, and I don't stand by, because I don't think that everyone should be a accommodation provider at all. So right now you're saying you don't do
No.
any of that and you're A-okay. You just do a good job in
Yep.
what you're doing.
Yep.
Yeah. I
Absolutely.
think people need to hear that. Like, I really do. I think people need to hear the fact that you can run one-to-ones, you can run group support, you can run respite opportunities for people, that you don't need to be boxed into having accommodation as a be or an end all.
Nope. Not at all.
It's such a false thing that people are talking about. Can you explain to me what Heart to Heart does in a simple words? Like, I know that we've talked about a few things, but I believe last time we were at the ball, you do some other stuff other than the NDIS.
Yep. We do. So a psychologist and occupational therapist. They work also in the Medicare health system. In the work cover Queensland, they do Veterans Affairs and all that. So we do that outside of NDIS. Next year, we're looking to branch it into the family dispute resolution space. That's where people obviously have going through a divorce or anything like that. So it's that mediation service. So we're looking to branch into that in 2026 time as well, which is obviously not part of NDIS.
So you do all of this, you've got multiple sites. How do you maintain and oversee all this that's going on? Because you've got what you guys do in Melbourne to Sydney to Queensland. How do you maintain it?
I'm always traveling. I'm always going from one spot to another. So I'm always overseeing what's going on. I know I'm going to have to need a practice manager one day.
Yeah.
We'll get to that point. Kerry and I are overseeing it together, and we've got about the 30 staff that we're looking after at the same time.
Yeah. That is quite a lot to oversee, especially when you're not in distance and you're forever traveling in that sense. Like, is have you got systems in place that, like, support workers would feel really able to communicate and contact you?
Yes, absolutely. They've got our mobile numbers. If they anything, we're easy to access on email. So they're quite comfortable. No one's really made any anxious moments or anything like that. Everyone's very comfortable in the team. So yeah.
Yeah. So with your group support, is it roughly like if anyone was looking at you as a provider, what is the ratios roughly for group support? Is it like a 1-4 or 1-3? What type of ratios do you work with?
So we're on a 1-to-1 and a 1-to-1 divided by two. So where are we coming from with this? So okay, we'll use an example of we have movie groups, we have sporting groups, we do walking groups, etc., etc. So with say for example, we're going to a football game, we'll pay for the ticket. The business will pay the ticket, not out of NDI's funding. So that's part of our social enterprise B-Corp mission. We'll pay for that. not out of NDIS funding. 5 hours. We do a 5-hour
Yep.
group if you make your own weight. So we just charge the 5 hours. If someone makes their own weight, it'd be 5 hours at the 1-on-1 ratio divided by 50%. That's
Yep.
what we do. Or if a participant, for example, wanted that transport assistance to go, then we would take them, we'll pick them up into the game,
Take them.
take them home. So that's that
Yep.
one-on-one individualized support. That's what we do.
Yeah.
And obviously, travel mileage and travel time has to come into play in that. So that we've got that two different ways of how we do things. Say, for example, if someone wanted to go on a night game, we can arrange to go on a night AFL game or a rugby league game or whatever. We have to make sure it's individualized, so all one-to-one, because you don't want to have someone going home at night without support. You don't know what the right dangers are on the street with vulnerable people. So it's a no debate type thing. You've got your own individualized worker. We know you're safe. We're going to take you home. We're going to take you there.
Yep. Cool. So does the support workers get to see many football games with the people that we serve?
They support a lot. Yep. I know we've had some in the past, and the current team have never known football.
Yeah.
But they've lived and learned what football is now, joining the team. So
Yeah. How do you make sure that your service is safe and still deliver really high quality supports? So I know you touched on it a
how we
bit
know is
with your
safe.
non-negotiables.
Yep. So I suppose the nighttime, like I mentioned, obviously has to have their own individualized support worker. Participants know, obviously, heart-to-heart contact number. So we've never had complaints, don't get me wrong, and that's very rare, I know, in the sector. But Kerry, the customer experience officer, is open to any inquiries if something goes wrong. Nothing's ever gone wrong in our groups because we've always had that sort of support. Everyone's in that group. We have accessible seating if required. So they're all safe.
Yep. Do you have with your company a way that if I was an NDIS participant, I attended and I wasn't happy for some reason, what was the method for them to say they were, not happy or they didn't like the supports they're having? What method do you guys use?
So they can give us a call of why they weren't happy, or send us an email.
Yep.
We give them 20. We've got a 21 to 28-day process to go to find out what actually happened in that incident, and then we investigate it and we report back. So in that time, we'll investigate what's happened. We talk to the support worker, we'll talk to the family, and try and get a little bit of a story about actually what happened. It really happened. It has happened maybe a few times over the years, but nothing
Yeah.
really has come
Big,
out of
major.
anything
Yeah.
dangerous, anything like that.
Oh,
We're
good.
very, very careful. That's all right. We're very careful who we employ. I know a lot of services just have a number and bring them into a team. We've got a really rigorous interview process. And I say, for example, we probably get about 200 or 300 applicants at every job that we apply for as a support worker. I reckon it'd be lucky about 10 of them or 15 of them would actually get a phone interview, because
Okay.
we want to make sure
Yeah.
they've got all the skills. Are they responsive? Are they keen? Are they joyful? Well, I always ask the question in an interview, are you a fun person? And I look at their body language and say, are you fun or not? And if they're not fun, they don't pass the interview. So that's got to bring a bit of joy.
Yeah. I notice with your company, I get to go to a lot of expos. I get to network a lot. Is your company done a lot more by word of mouth? Because do you guys go to expos or do you go to networking opportunities? How do you get yourself out there? Because I know you've got all these peeps with you. I'm just curious where you hang out.
Yeah, well, actually, to be honest with you, before this year, I was not we weren't networking. We're not doing anything. We're getting enough word of mouth things coming along. But I thought, and obviously in business, you learn as you go different things of what you're not doing, what you should be doing. And I found it really important this year. Has been a breakthrough for me. Networking is extremely important, which I never thought it was that important at all in the past. But networking in different expo events. So I've been to quite a few this year alone with networking events, where before this year wasn't really going to too many at all. So I think you've got to be able to collaborate with other providers, because not every single provider can do everything. Some providers and others, say for example us and them, have that match. they're not doing what
Yeah.
we're doing, they're not doing what we do.
Yeah.
There's that common match. We have the same and things like that. So I think networking is very important now in this day of age.
Yep. How do you go about collaborating with people that you want to collaborate with?
What I've been doing, I've actually been using LinkedIn quite a bit
Ah,
lately, as
yes.
well as when I go to a networking thing. I'd ask them, do you want to have a coffee and we can explore this
Yeah.
conversation over a chat? Because some of these
Yeah.
networking events, you might only get like 5 to 6 minutes talking to someone, and if you've got
Yeah.
that sort of common interest, common thing, we can take it outside, a coffee chat. And a few coordinators have been really receptive and have been really good at talking to some of them. I think a lot of them, I suppose, I think to a support coordinator perspective, they've got to know, they've got to be able to trust you. And I can understand from our lessons back in when we first started support coordination, got to be able to trust that provider. If you can't trust that provider, that support coordinator is also in trouble because it's a bad introduction. So I can
Yeah.
understand from a coordinator of, oh, I'm not sure I want to talk to you. I don't really know you. I want to sort of start engaging in that conversation. But if any support coordinators are out there watching this, I'm very happy to have a chat over coffee wherever in the east coast of Australia you are.
Yeah, it does make a difference networking beyond a networking event because you're right, it only goes for 5 minutes. Sometimes you're only getting 5 minutes worth of a chat and you're missing some really juicy details. Have you got any
That's it.
tips how you network with support coordinators? Have you any tricky little tips that you could um, let people know that gets them interested and keyed into your business?
For our perspective, because we've got that sort of unique selling proposition, getting participants out in the community. Obviously, what we mentioned earlier, we pay for those tickets out of the business profit, not out of that. We've had some really breakthrough success stories of participants who've gone from not being able to leave their home into being constantly engaged in groups. And that's a massive effort from our team to be able to do that because these participants, for example, haven't left the home in years, rarely left the home in years, and now they've got to that stage in their recovery. They're constantly going out. So we know what we do is remarkable. It's life
Yep.
changing. I suppose it's really at the end of the day, does a participant, I know it's hard to get out that front door, but once they're out that front door, magic happens.
Yeah. It's about being consistent, really, isn't it? Making sure that your staff is consistent enough for that person that we serve, that they feel comfortable enough to leave and being that
Correct.
person. So
Correct.
I do have a
Exactly.
I do have a question. All right, because you work with your partner. All right. What is it like working with your wife every day? Is it hard? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that would love to work with their partners. I could work with my partner. I think I'd drown him.
I actually enjoy working with my wife, actually, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
We're very, very different. We're chalk and cheese. We're completely different
Yeah.
opposite um, personality. She's very more the introverted side, but she's very, very she's very good with customers. She's got that something in Kerry that attracts the customer in that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but
Is it like a nurturing or is
customers
it?
love.
Yeah.
I think it's more that nurturing, that mother feel. I think there's that mother feel, mother hen type thing coming out, and participants love that. Where I'm more not extroverted, but more the in the middle, the ambiverted side. So we've got different skill sets too. So she does her part of the business, I do my part of
Yeah.
the business, and we sort of
Yeah.
get together at times. So we're not. It might come across like we're 24/7, but we do have our own parts of the business that we do.
Yeah. So how
So
do
I'm
you
I'm
handle
not complaining.
a disagreement? Like, how do you do a disagreement since you work together? Like, how do you hash it out? Because are you both the CEO at the same time, or like, how does the structure work?
So she's more in charge of the customer side of things.
Yep.
Anything to do with customers, staff, she does that sort of thing. I do more the business side of it, the systems, the finance side of part of the business. If it's a customer thing happening, then she's the one that deals with that stuff. Where if it's a business decision, that's more around my part of it.
Yep. So
So we've got
how,
those
like, 'cause
lines.
Yeah, really clear and have those real boundaries. How did you guys, because you've had to pivot a couple of times with your business because the NDIS has changed, a lot of things have changed, even COVID. How do you get to that point, the two of you, to be able to make a pivot and quite a big pivot quite quickly?
Um, I think we're more on top of everything of what goes on in what happens, what's happening in the sector, what's happening
Yeah,
within our business. So we're very all over the changes of what's coming. Obviously, at
yeah,
the moment, we're all going through a legislation change right now, like 4 or 5 year project, which we're one in. So no one knows what's going to happen in the next three or
yeah.
4 years with NDIS. I do admire. I did see a post of yours on LinkedIn. I think you were talking about what through AI, what would NDIS look like in say a few
Yeah,
years time? And I found it was really, really fascinating what the results that you got back. That 2028 is seems like that's that magic year. If you can survive the 2028 as a provider, you're going to do very, very well.
yeah. It was very interesting what it came up with because with AI it's all about the prompt, right? So I prompted to ask, what do you think is going to happen with all the information that you know? So yeah, it was an interesting post. I didn't expect it to come up with a few areas that I didn't foresee that I would not have picked, but now that obviously, AI collects data, so it's collecting something somewhere along the internet to say that these are certain turning points to change and move between all that. Now, I do have a big one for you because you guys have actually received and won some awards. Can you tell me some of the awards that you've won for your business?
Yeah, well, I've got a little trophy right here.
Oh,
Yeah, look, it's got a little heart in there too. So that's a
did you pick
coincidence.
that up this weekend?
Last week, I was
Yeah.
overseas in London. So this is an international. It's an international. What do they call it? The CSR Excellence Award. So corporate service responsibility.
Yep.
So this is all out of our mission of social enterprise and B-Corp. We got recognised in England. They've heard of what we've been doing, they're really enjoying what we're doing. They rewarded us with this trophy. So I made a little small trip to London and back to go pick it up.
Oh, how terrible. But that would have felt really good. Like yeah, to receive that because there's a lot of things that happen in NDIS business, all businesses that you don't always get an award for, and you have to be persistent and get going even when it's really hard.
Yep, yep. And before that, we won the Global Disability Awards for community care, respite, and allied health services. So we won that in London in December last year.
Oh wow.
On top of we won the Enablement Australian Disability Awards for that same thing in August last year,
Yeah.
and we've been. Oh, I obviously can't speak openly now, but it appears that we might have done it again this year for Australia.
How exciting. This is
Yeah,
like the type of
yes,
moments that you and your wife must be looking at each other going, how bloody amazing is this? Who would have thought that when we first started, this is where we would be? Kudos. No, it's serious. Like, you would never
no,
have picked it, would you? No. And that's just because of being persistent. So, what is
that's
the
it.
moment
That's it.
consistent, persistent, bit of both? What was the moment that you felt the most proud of your support worker team?
The biggest moment. I think the winning the national awards last year for their work would have been a big highlight. When we met, obviously, the Victorian State Disability Awards, we're the only service to have more than one support worker as a finalist. So we had three support workers
Yeah.
as finalists in that award. And no other services had two or more. So that was a proud moment too. How the guys in Melbourne have done so well.
Yeah, they're a great team. They're really down to earth.
Yep,
Yeah. I really, I thoroughly enjoyed it, to be honest with you. They were really lovely to get
yep,
along with.
yep, absolutely.
All right. Because you've got quite a lot going on, like you've got your business, you work with your partner, how do you maintain and look after balance in your business? How do you have balance?
Not really.
Is that
Not
because you love
really.
what you do? You know what? Like, I know people talk about balance, but if you really love what you do, is there a real need to have balance? Because what you do and you love is what drives you.
You got to have a little bit of balance. Like I'm probably my own worst enemy. I should be doing more myself, like more thinking about my health. Because if you don't have your health, you got nothing. So I have been working on like doing a lot of walking, trying to eat healthy, that sort of thing. Because it's so easy when you're working so much, you can let those things go. So I have been working a lot on my fitness and health. Might go to catch a movie here and there, a sporting game here and there, if I've got a little bit of time in between. But yeah, that's probably about it at the moment. And obviously, I'm up and down the east coast of
Yeah.
Australia quite a bit.
Well, I've got the best question. You ready? AFL or rugby?
Yeah,
Which one?
union or league? You talking?
I have no idea what that means. I'm an AFL girl.
AFL's for me. Yeah, I love sport all round. Don't get me wrong. AFL I probably would pick out of the three. Rugby union I've lost a lot of interest in. It sort of went a bit woke. Australia have just been doing some terrible,
Yeah.
terrible. They've been terrible at rugby. I couldn't believe they couldn't get out of a World Cup group. Where back in the day when we were really good, we
Yeah.
always make the last four of a World Cup. But the last one we couldn't even get out of our group, and that was just plain embarrassing. But I think with rugby league, we've got some really talented athletic players. But you look at like the Jonathan Thurstons, the Cooper Cronks, the Andrew Johnsons, and the players in that era and before. It's not the same. It's not the same anymore.
I was just gonna ask if you're maroon or blue because that's as far as I.
Oh, red or blue? I was born blue,
Yeah.
but I think I'm more maroon now because I'm spending more time in Queensland, so I've converted across to a maroon.
Yep.
Who's going to win on Wednesday? I have no idea.
Didn't know they were playing. Sorry.
But I think Victoria too. I think Victoria too is more Queensland.
Yep. I think probably. We watched Bluey. What is your big dreams or goals for the next 5 years for your company?
International expansion. That's our
International?
big thing. Yep,
Where to?
absolutely. We've got a thoughts of Singapore, the
Yep.
United States. Is this what has happened in the global awards in London last year? A lot of countries around the world are loving Australia of what they're doing with the NDIS, and they're trying to bring it across to their countries. And it was a really interesting conversation I had with a British driver.
Yep.
He had a son who has a chronic disability, a 13-year-old boy, and he has no support whatsoever. The government gives them nothing. Like they have to pay for their own therapies, they have to pay for their own equipment.
Yeah.
And I talked to him about the NDIS or how good Australia is with the NDIS. It was like, oh, he couldn't believe it because they're paying for everything over in England at the moment.
Yep. It does put everything in perspective, doesn't it? Because before the NDIS, a lot of families did have to pay out of their own pockets to have therapies, to have supports, to have their own wheelchairs, to have continent aids. Like it wasn't something that was covered under the
That's it.
NDIS. It was hard times,
That's
like to
it.
be honest with you. It was really hard.
Absolutely. And I don't think anyone, while we're obviously hearing positive and negative news about the scheme, I don't think anyone could say the NDIS is a bad thing. It's probably one of the best things that's ever happened in this country, I think.
Yep. 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 So we got people that are actually getting support, but we've also been able to grow new jobs and be a bit more tolerant and
Yeah,
accepting of people that are very different to us. Yep.
absolutely. Absolutely. There's the NDIS and then there's the NDIA.
Yep. Um, what advice would you give anyone that's wanting to open a service like yours? Don't
Oh,
do
that's a
it.
tough one. Well, actually, to be honest with you, back in 2016, I was encouraging everyone to open a business in NDIS. I
Yep.
was saying at that time, do it, do it. It's really,
Yep.
really rewarding. But now if you're not willing to sacrifice your life and what you want, I will not do it. It's a lot to take in on your life to open up an NDIS business. And I've heard the stats. I think like 63% of providers are in big financial trouble.
Yeah. Yep. Easy. Because yeah,
Yep,
they are.
Yep.
badly. Yeah, like when you
Yep.
think about it, because the NDIS just changes and shifts so quickly. And at one point, they were really big into growth. So, like there wasn't as many red tape. Now there's much more red tape. I'm watching what people are doing, and rightly so, because fraud has happened.
Yep.
We'd
Yep.
all be
Yep.
lying if we said that, there wasn't.
Absolutely. Like a friend of mine, she's a plan manager in Melbourne. She's also accountant by trade. And she said to me, you can't do a plan management business on your own. She does it because she's got a son that's on the NDIS. So she wants
Yep.
to give back. So she's plan
Yep.
management in that perspective. But obviously the big plan managers can make it work because they've got so many different participants. They've got the systems in place, but they've lost 11% of their income over the last. If they haven't started now, they will be in 12 months' time. 11% of their wages are gone.
Yeah.
I'm just using plan management as an example. It's getting harder and harder to make a business out of the scheme, but I know a lot of big services can still do it. Like, I suppose I don't know much about the story of Cocoon, that they will win. I think it was like $50 million in debt.
Yeah. Yeah. See, you have to
Yeah.
follow the rule
So
book.
it doesn't matter. That's it. That's it. I don't know the full story behind them. I knew of that massive amount of debt they have, but I suppose you can be a massive big provider and you can still not survive in the NDIS.
Yeah. So to survive so I have a couple of theories about how to survive the NDIS as a provider, especially if you're starting new. My first theory is that once you've got a person that wants to join your service, like a hot lead, you have to get them in really quickly and then maintain that communication throughout the whole entire time instead of letting it lag. Have you got any hot tips that you would give anyone?
Look after your customers, because if you don't have your customers, you don't have your business.
Yep. And it's not just the customer. People just say, like, NDIS participants, yes, but there's also the families around them. There's also the friendships groups around them. It's also their core supports around them that we all have to work together to be able to deliver a really good outcome for that person. When we're all on the same team, it's easier. And that's through
Absolutely.
networking.
Yep. And you got to look after your support workers too, obviously, as well. Because if you
Yeah.
don't have support workers, are a very big part of any provider business. Because they're a dime a dozen, especially the ones we have in our team. They're very, very hard to get a very good support worker, and we've got many of them in the team. But I know a lot of stories from other services, other participants. They're having horror stories with some of the support workers out there.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago. It was probably a couple of weeks ago that I had heard as an interesting story about support work, like, someone using support workers through a company and how important having well trained, well nurtured support workers in an organization makes a difference, because it really does just take one bad day to get your company, your organization, a really bad reputation.
Absolutely.
Sorry.
Absolutely. It's good. You got to be careful with your workers to make sure they're cared for, make sure they're doing the right thing.
Yeah, 100%. And then, like we discussed before about having your finger on the pulse, knowing what's going on and asking questions as well. That I read in your journals, I read into your notes, your progression notes. This occurred. Tell me more. Is there something that I could do as a business owner, to help you succeed? Because when you succeed, they're going to succeed as well. And so having those really open and honest
Correct.
conversations, and it's so easy, to be honest with you, Greg, it's so easy to do. It really is. Like, I think this is a part that we forget. We overcomplicate things. It's okay to pick up the phone and ask somebody, read your journals, what's going on? Is there something I can help you with? I can see there's an issue here.
Yep. Yep. That's it. That's it.
Oh, you're going to
Exactly.
love this
I've
question.
got one of my workers at the moment.
Yeah.
Go for it.
No, 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 no. You got one of your workers at the moment. Go. Tell me.
I was just saying, I don't want to give this worker's identity or gender or anything like that, but one of my workers lost a loved one recently.
Yeah.
This person it's taken it really hard, and this person was really worried that he would lose his job with us because the amount of time she needs off. They needs till September because the
Yeah.
support worker was very close to a family member, and it's really taken this person. off. And I just said, take the time you need. The job's here when you come back.
Yeah. There's, you know what? I always said to support workers, there's always another fish at the sea. It's okay. Like even if you do,
Yeah,
like the person that you work with moves, or things happen, like funding gets cut, there is always somebody else out there wanting support by you. So it's just nurturing that person across as a business owner to make sure that they feel comfortable that you've got something else coming for them. It is job security, really.
absolutely.
Especially if
It is.
you've got a
Yep.
lot of casuals, like casual support workers, knowing that they will have a job and that what they do is valued at the organization, it goes a long way.
Yep,
Yep.
absolutely.
All right.
It's very hard for a support worker to get a permanent job
Yeah.
because of how the NDIS is choice control. You never know how long you have that participant for. So
Yeah.
from a business perspective, all your support workers are casual because you don't know when your next shift is in that sense.
Yeah.
Like a lot of our workers get regular casual shifts, but to make them permanent, no one's permanent in this sector. I suppose if providers have permanent staff, they would have like a SEAL or SDA or something like that. That's the constant work they have. That would be probably
Yeah.
more permanent work. But when you're doing
Yeah.
groups and one on one, you can't really put them on permanently, which is
Well, you
unfortunate.
can't rely on it. It's unreliable at this sector at the moment because a lot of people that are getting
Exactly.
ones are getting their funding cut. It's not the same.
Exactly. Exactly. So, and with all the changes coming, watch this space.
100%. Yeah, I get why they have to change because, for at one period of time, you talked about a couple of dates with the NDIS, over the decade of what it's been like. And there were pivotal moments where funding was quite easy to get. And now it's on the other end where it's a lot more harder and it's going to be proven with a lot more detail than ever before.
Exactly. And I suppose the country is in record debt too. So the
Yeah.
government's got to look at different ways of reducing that debt. And obviously, unfortunately, NDIS is part of reducing the debt. So, and I suppose
Yep.
they've made that change with the plan managers. I mean, CEOs have lost their funding, part of their funding, the dietitians. So, I suppose there's not a lot of happy people out there, but I suppose hard decisions have to be made. Whether it's good or bad, I won't make an opinion, but yeah, they have to make their mind up of how they're going to reduce the debt.
Yeah, they've got to start somewhere. Yeah, you're
Yep,
right. Like
that's it.
even with COVID killed us. Not killed us, but like, made it
Yep,
really expensive. We're
absolutely.
gonna pay it all back.
That's it, especially in Victoria.
Yeah. Especially in Victoria. I still don't know if I can shake hands anymore or
Yep.
not. I'm in that awkward I don't know which one I'm allowed to do. That's probably the worst part about
You
when I
doing the
go
fist
to
bumps?
networking meetings. Yeah, I don't know because some people still want to shake hands, and others don't because of COVID. Because we were told not to shake people's hands, and I just it's really like this. It's like this real social awkward moment when you're meeting someone now. Can I shake your hand or not?
I've a lot of business acquaintances I deal with. They don't shake hands. They always fist pump. They
Yeah,
still have the fist pump.
bring back the shake.
Yep.
All right. If you could go back 10 years, would you tell yourself to start this business again?
God,
Knowing that you know now, would you do it again?
that's a tough question. I would say yes,
Yeah.
but I'll have all the information. If I had all the information I know now and go back 10 years, I would probably say yes. I would do it again, but it wouldn't be an easy yes or easy no. It'd
Yeah.
be very
Yeah.
tough decision to make, but I would do
No,
yes.
100%. Okay. Is there anything else that I have missed about your business? What's going on before we wrap up our podcast today?
I suppose just to your viewers, just hang in there. Keep doing great work that you do. The people that do great work, of course, and keep going. It's not easy for anyone, but we're in there. We all have the one thing in common. We're making sure our participants are being cared for.
Excellent. And if they wanted to contact you, what is the best contact? Is it by website, email, LinkedIn, social media? What's the best way to get to you?
Or you can go to our website. So that's www.your, Hart, as in my surname, HART, number 2, yourhearttoheart.com.au. We're actually going through a brand refresh at the moment. It's really looking good at the moment. So if anyone is interested in following our journey, we're also on Instagram. So Your Hart to Heart is on Instagram. Doing amazing work with Instagram. And you can follow us with when we can release this whole brand refresh. So it's looking really exciting. I'm seeing at the moment. So can't wait.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for joining me today. Until next time.
Thanks, Sarah. I really
All right,
appreciate
see you,
the show. Absolutely.
Ah.
See you then.
All right. Bye, mate.
See you. Bye.